Yeah.
Good evening, Littleton. Welcome to the Select Board meeting for Monday, February 7th, 2022. The first order of business we have tonight is an executive session. We will be hoping to get back out of executive session by 6:30, where we'll continue with the rest of our agenda. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion for us to go into executive session.
Move that the Select Board vote to enter into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Clause 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares, and to convene an open session thereafter.
So declared. Seconded by Mr. Glavy. All those in favor, is roll call vote. Is it your executive session, Mr. Nordhaus?
Aye.
Mr. Glavy?
Aye.
Ms. Napoli?
Aye.
And I'm in favor as well. So, folks, we'll be back live, hopefully by 6:30. Welcome back, Littleton, to Select Board meeting on Monday, February 7th, 2022. We are still in hybrid, so a couple of our members are home zooming in, and for those of you at home, welcome. As we start each meeting, I'd like to stand, and I'll lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. All right. So here's a quick rundown of our agenda for this evening. We just came out of executive session, and we actually were able to. We have an executive session scheduled for the end of the meeting, and we will be taking that motion at the end of the meeting, but we were able to take care of that business during our previous executive session. But next up on the agenda, we have reading of the mail, which Town Administrator Ansaldi will do. Then we have Department and Board updates and requests. We've got some gifts. We've got a lot of generous folks in Littleton and the surroundings that keep giving us donations to our Elder and Human Services. We've got Building and Land Use is coming before us to request a land fund transfer for some renovations. And the Littleton Cultural Council is coming before us, looking for us to sign a contract. DPW needs to set a hearing so that we can set our rates at the transfer station for fees. Finance Department will give us I believe Sean is going to zoom in. He's got a young one that's not feeling well, so he'll be zooming in from home to give us an update on, we had our summit on Saturday to discuss the fiscal 2023 budget, and he's going to give us kind of an overview of that. Then we'll have an opportunity for public input and member updates. Do ask that if you are going to give us any public input, if you're in the room, just come to the microphone, state your name and your address, and keep your comments brief, and we would like to limit those comments to 2 minutes. The total time for public input is 10 minutes. So we also have an opportunity for members to give updates of stuff that we've been working on. Next, hopefully around 7 o'clock, it might be a little after that, but we'll have appointments. We're looking to appoint 3 members to our brand new personnel advisory committee. I see some of the folks in the room, and I think there's some folks that are going to be zooming in. And we'll do just some brief introductions and get to know those folks and make 3 appointments to that newly formed advisory committee. We're scheduled to have a joint meeting with the Board of Health this evening. Unfortunately, the Board of Health was not posted in time, so we're not going to be able to do that. There may be some members of the Board of Health that are in the meeting, and maybe I'll let them say a few words. Always let Gino speak if he wants to. Then we have an opportunity for some select board discussions on an RFP for 12 Robinson Road. A few years ago, we purchased at town meeting 12 Robinson Road, which is the old farmhouse behind Colonial Gardens, where Northern Bank and Trust is doing their renovation. So we're looking to do something with that building, so we're going to look at some opportunities to put that out to RFP. We'll have an opportunity to discuss our goals. We do want to try to get a select board retreat in, which is an opportunity for us to kind of brainstorm and talk about our goals and just make sure we're all on the same page and focused and all working in the right direction and together. So we're looking at some ideas on our next retreat. We'll have a brief discussion on the status of our interim fire chief and the hiring of a fire chief. The annual town meeting is scheduled for May 2nd, 2022. We'll be voting to open that warrant. Town administrator and assistant town administrator will give us a couple of updates on select board rules and regulations and on the senior center, or the center on Shattuck. And then we've got some minutes from our January 24th meeting, which hopefully the board has reviewed and will accept those. And then hopefully we'll adjourn somewhere around 9 o'clock. So, that being said, Town Administrator Insaldi, you've got some mail for us?
Thank you. You know, there's really one thing. There's an Xfinity, cable edition, but the most important thing that I really want to mention tonight is it's something that, since I was an assistant, that I always wanted to see the town achieve was the recognition for the work that goes into our budget. And when Alicia came on, I asked her to submit our document for last year to the GFOA to see if how we'd fare in the Distinguished Budget Award. And we thought that, if anything, it would point out some areas where we needed to improve upon. Lo and behold, we received that award for the first time in Littleton's history, which not many communities across Massachusetts, maybe, I want to say maybe less than...
It was only 14.
There was 14 at the time for this past year that have received that recognition. And, you know, I certainly challenged Alicia when she came here, and she ran with it and did a great job in submitting it. But that's quite an award to get for the town. We'll have a plaque that we'll share with the board at another meeting when we send it to us. And, you know, we're looking to build on that every year now, and we've set the bar high, and we need to meet that bar. We plan on meeting that bar, so it's great. Thank you to Alicia for really wrapping that up, and, you know, certainly getting that award means a lot for the great work that we as a town do during our budget process, which we just went through on Saturday, right? So
Still going through it.
It's still going through it, right? So it's a great honor, and I'm appreciative of Alicia for wrapping that up and for doing that. So I just wanted to bring that to the board's attention.
Couple things.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, GFO, we tend to speak in alphabet soup, so GFOA for those
It's the
folks.
General Finance Officer Association.
Okay, and that's, yeah, actually, absolutely, hats off to the whole administration and to, not just Alicia, but to everybody that helped her, to, you know, all of the people that supported her, and even FinCom, and, you know, just, so there's a lot of people that put a lot of time, energy, and effort into that, so thank you to all those, and it's absolutely, yeah, kudos to Alicia and the staff. Absolutely. Cindy, I think I cut you off, I'm sorry about that.
No, you didn't. No, I'm all set.
Okay,
Yep.
good. That's it?
That's it.
All right.
Sure.
Let's move along. So department updates, we've got
We have
Other and
Liz
Human
on.
Services, bring Liz in.
She's remote.
Okay,
She's on her way in.
I guess I didn't shave today. See my fuzz up on the screen. Put my hat back on.
Hi, I'm here.
Hey Liz,
Hello there.
it's great to see you, and it's even greater to see you when you keep coming and asking for us to accept these gifts.
I know, isn't it nice?
Absolutely. It's all yours.
Thank you. Liz Trudiak, Director of Elder and Human Services, and I am coming here tonight to request the acceptance of two very generous donations that we received from the members of this great community. We received an unsolicited donation from Kristen M. Grimes for the TREAD Fund, tax relief for the elderly and disabled, in the amount of $748.59. And we also received a donation from Ed's Weenies in the amount of $436 for families in need. So I'm here tonight to respectfully request that those donations be accepted.
Great, thank you very much, and thank you to Kristen and to Ed's Weenies. And it seems like you're here on a monthly basis, Liz, asking for us to accept money from Ed. Yeah,
They're great.
Yeah, absolutely. So folks, keep buying your hot dogs and going down to Gary's Farm Stand and supporting Ed and supporting our elders and those in need. Any deliberation from the board? Any questions of Liz?
Just one quick one, Mr. Chair. Normally, I could have signed off on that 436 because $500 is the threshold, but it's really worth mentioning because at some point in time, I'd like to challenge somebody here to see exactly how much Ed's Weenie has donated to the various causes in town.
School libraries
and everything. It's pretty significant, and it's just really something that amazes me month after month, the generosity, and that tip jar that people are leaving is directly coming to benefit residents of Littleton in one way, shape, or form. So it's just remarkable. It's a big thank you to Ed's Weenies.
Thank you. All right, so if there's no questions of Liz, Mr. Clerk, if you're out there, we'll take a motion.
It would be my pleasure. Move that the select board vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53A, and per its policy on solicitation and acceptance of monetary and non-monetary gifts for public purpose, to accept donations to the Department of Elder and Human Services, EHS COA, for the TREAD Fund for the purpose of tax relief for the elderly and disabled from Kristen M. Grimes in the amount of $748.59, and from Ed's Weenies in the amount of $436 for families in need.
Motion been made by Mr. Nordhaus, seconded by Mr. Glavy. Since we do have some folks in hybrid, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Glavy?
Aye.
Mr. Nordhaus?
Aye.
Is Mr. Knox on?
Yes, he is.
Mr. Knox?
Aye.
Ms. Napoli?
Aye.
And the chair's in favor, so it's unanimous. Liz, thank you very much. Keep them coming.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And thanks to all those that are generously donating to Ed's Weenies and to those that keep giving. Up next, we have building and land use. We've got a request for some reserve fund transfers. Anthony, you want to take a lead on that, or? Joe?
Sure, that there's a request that, Ed has said time and again that he's doing some work, and we're appreciative because some of that work is done on his time on the weekends. And in order to get the first floor ready for that transition, there's three parts to this, correct me if I'm wrong. There's a counter that's being built, there's electrical, and third one, data?
Yeah, like
IT.
data, and there's an elevator service. So, Ed Mullen, Littleton Building Commissioner, thank you for hearing us tonight. The third item on that is the elevator. It opens on both sides, on all three floors. And when we're closed for business, we want to be able to make sure that that doesn't open so people don't have access to the records or the files without supervision. So the technician gave us a quote from the elevator company for that service, and it's part of that total of $12,000 and change for the reserve fund transfer request. Thank you.
Thanks,
Stay right there, Ed. Just have a question. When the library was closed, you couldn't go out that way, and conversely, when the town hall's closed, you couldn't get out into the town offices from the library. So that capability has been able to be done in the past.
Correct. So the capability exists to shut, and we tried every scenario that you have, because there's three switches on the library side
Okay,
that control on and off to that side,
okay.
but you can't shut off the first floor without shutting off the other two floors to the library side. So if Park and Rec is running a late night program, should they take the second and third floor, which I believe they've been approved to do as well, we would want somebody to come into the elevator and get in and just walk right through into buildings and land use. So by shutting that one off, that was the quote that we got.
Right.
We tried every scenario. George and I worked on it. We worked on it with a technician, and we just couldn't come up with
Okay.
a switch scenario that did that.
Okay. That's the question I had.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Any questions from any other board members? No, looks like we're good. Mr. Clerk?
Gotta unmute before you talk.
You don't have to, it's just going to take longer.
I move that the select board vote to support the reserve fund transfer in the amount of $12,000 $12,267.32 to the fiscal year 22 facilities maintenance services budget.
Motion been made by Mr. Nordhaus, seconded by Mr. Glavy. Roll call vote. Mr. Glavy?
Aye.
Mr. Nordhaus?
Aye.
Mr. Knox?
Aye.
Ms. Napoli?
Aye.
And I'm in favor as well, so it's unanimous. Good luck. Thank you. Thanks for bringing it to us and all the work that you do to get that ready. Appreciate it. All right, next up we have Littleton Cultural Council. We have to authorize a signature. Would you be authorizing town administrator to sign on this?
I'll take this one, Mr. Chair.
Please
So, we received a letter of the annual grant award that goes to the Cultural Council, $6,200. So, I'm looking for the board to authorize me to sign that so we can accept those funds. I've let the Cultural Council know that their annual appropriation's almost on its way, from the state, so, that's basically it.
Just in anticipation of the state money coming in, you want to be able to...
I have to sign the contract, so we get the money.
Any questions?
No.
All set? Okay. Mr. Clerk?
I move that the select board vote to authorize the town administrator to sign the fiscal year 22 allocation of $6,200 for the Littleton Cultural Council.
Motion been made by Mr. Nordhaus, seconded by Mr. Glavy. Roll call vote. Mr. Glavy?
Aye.
Mr. Nordhaus?
Aye.
Mr. Knox?
Aye.
Ms. Napoli?
Aye.
And I'm in favor, so it's unanimous again. Great. Thank you very much. DPW.
Hello, Chris Stoddard,
Mr. Stoddard.
DPW Director. We're here tonight just so you will set the hearing for the transfer station rates. We are proposing, you want me, can we?
Yeah, please, jump into it.
So last year, we didn't
Joe,
raise our rates at
Will
all.
you share the rates on part of the packet,
We,
please?
from FY '21 to
Looking.
FY '22, we didn't raise the rates at all.
Right.
The intention, obviously, is with the new trash truck hauling our own trash, we've been able to keep our rates from having to jump up super fast.
So just so people know, Chris, when you say with our new trash, we got a roll-off container so
Correct.
that we can haul many of the containers
All of them,
ourselves.
correct. Yeah, so we're no longer paying hauling fees
Right.
anymore. But this year, because inflation, I'm not sure what, our bag fees, our cost to purchase the bag fees have gone up approximately 12%. So what we're proposing and we're asking for is just a small increase, leaving the sticker prices the same, and just adding 25 cents to every bag. So going from $3.25 to $3.50 for the big bags, middle bags $2.25 to $2.50, and then $1.25 to $1.50 for the small bags. You can see, actually, can you go to the next page? I don't know if you can even zoom in enough on that page, but so what we did is we actually took the costs from this year with our anticipated bags, how many bags we'd sell, plus all our sticker fees, and then we overlaid that into our FY23 budget. And what that's showing is if we do no changes, we're going to be approximately $28,000 to the negative. If we increase just the bag fees as we're proposing, we can reduce that down to approximately a $6,000 negative, which is typically where we've been for years. We've tried to hit that. We can't, I mean, I could get over into the positive, but we kind of feel that within 10,000 of a negative, it's something I can usually absorb within the operating budget. And then the other thing is this past year, we've started getting charged for mattresses, which in the past we haven't. So, and it's fairly substantial. It's $35 for every mattress we bring to the transfer, that gets hauled to the landfill. So we need to start recouping some of that cost. So we're proposing to charge $35 for those, and fire extinguishers, we're also getting charged $8 to dispose of fire extinguishers.
So you're just going to pass on?
It's just a straight pass, yeah. So we're proposing to just recoup those costs in those items as
And
well.
for the mattresses, it's whether it's a twin or a king or a queen?
It doesn't, unfortunately, we get charged the same, whether it's a cream
Queen
mattress
mattress,
or
yeah.
a California king. So we can't really differentiate. I mean, we could, I guess, if you wanted to, but we get charged the same regardless.
Okay. Any questions?
No.
Board members, any questions?
So, Mr. Chair, this is obviously the informational session, that the next meeting is the public hearing
Right.
for the comments, and you take the vote at that point.
And Tuesday, February 22nd works for you?
Well, it doesn't work for me personally, but it works for the department. I didn't realize, I'm actually gonna be in Florida that week, but Ashley is the one that Ashley and I put this whole package together, so she
She can be here to help?
Yeah, she is planning on attending that.
Okay.
I guess the only question I would have now is, does this seem out of line? Because I know normally we would talk about this and then kind of kick it back if you're like, whoa, this is crazy. We'd kind of try to revise some of the numbers ahead of time.
So
I mean, I know it's,
of the things that we get beat up on, this is one of them, the bag price. So, but it is what it is, and we've got to operate the transfer station, we've got to try to recoup as much of that as we can. So if you have crunched the numbers and you and Ashley have come up with this, I trust your recommendation. That's my opinion on it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I trust
I
your
agree.
recommendation, yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think it seems like normally we get a lot of complaints on the sticker prices too. So I'm trying to hold those because those are starting to creep up in price, so. I personally think this is the best approach. Like I said, we could just, if you didn't want to do anything, we could leave it, you're just knowing that we're gonna be about a $30,000 negative.
Okay.
That's an, that's an option for you. You just have to find it somewhere else in the budget.
Yeah. We need to figure out another silver bullet like you found with the hauling our own trash, if there was something else like that we could introduce. And it sounds like you mentioned briefly on Saturday at the summit, something about single use and, maybe it might not be this year, but, there might be an opportunity for us to switch over to single stream, or not single use, single stream, or
Yeah, I mean,
zero sort, whatever. you
yeah,
wanna
what
call
we're
it.
looking, we've kind of tried to kick the idea around of combining some of our into single stream and maybe being able to reduce our hauling of material. I know we don't pay for hauling right now directly, but it is a cost.
Fuel and driver.
Yeah, it's a cost associated to the department. If we can shrink that down in some way, I mean, we're trying to figure out every option we
Yeah.
can. And, we kind of kicked the idea around of recycling our own glass at one point. That, that machine kind of became cost prohibitive. It was almost $200,000 to purchase it, so.
Yeah.
There's a million different options, so we can try to really try to figure that out.
I love the fact that you do research those. I know we had a conversation about you even thinking about maybe doing some sort of a mutual agreement with another community with the glass, or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
To
Yeah, and I mean,
shared resources.
we keep looking, we're a member of MassTOS, and Tessa is our kind of a representative there. And we've reached out to her a bunch of different times on grant opportunities and trying to help us come up with some ideas on how to reduce some of the expense up there, so.
Appreciate you always looking at those opportunities, keeping us informed of it as well. Any questions from the board?
Yeah, I've got one, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
Yeah. Chris, do you have a figure on how many households right now actually use the transfer station, or maybe just how many stickers you sell? I'm just trying to get, always trying to keep track of. It's something that everybody has an access to, but not everybody uses it. So, it helps decide, in my mind, the validity to letting the sticker buyers cover the cost on this, or whether or not to put some of it on the general taxpayer.
Yeah, so, yes, we do. So we have approximately 1,600 to 1,700 users. In that number, there's a couple second stickers, so, if they have two vehicles, they might want two stickers. So it's between 1,500 and 1,600 is usually the average number of stickers we sell a year. And you figure if it's one a household, so give or take.
That should include commercial properties as well, Chris, or not?
We don't differentiate. The only thing we differentiate
Yeah.
between is senior stickers or regular stickers.
Right, okay. Well, that's still a pretty high percentage. I mean, it's over half, I would guess, by households, because we're probably, 2,500 households in town?
I think there's more,
I think it's
more than
close.
that.
I think it's closer to 3,500.
Yeah, it's closer to
Okay,
35.
all right, then we're less than half, okay. Well, that's worth asking the question then.
And you're about You're about 900 of the 1,500 stickers are senior stickers a year. So it's a little bit more than half are seniors.
About $725 of the full price,
Yes.
and then you get the others second and...
Yeah, yeah, and then the second and the prorate. Prorated is just we reduced the stickers by half in January.
Halfway through the year, yeah. Okay. All right, a motion to post the public hearing?
Yes, and off topic first, I want to, while Chris is here, I was going to do this during my board member update, but I'll make it brief. During the storm last weekend, Phil Peliquin drove down and got stuck at the end of our road with a full sander. And he had been up for 18 hours, but when he got out of the truck, I expected frustration. He was relentlessly cheerful. You know, we helped dig him out. He chatted with us. He played with the dogs. He was a lovely guy. And I wanted to call him out for his hard work and all the rest of the plow drivers who spend so much time sitting in that cab, pushing the snow around. They do a great job. It's not, I think, probably very pleasant, but I really appreciated him. And I just wanted to make sure that Chris knew about it.
Thank you. Yeah, that was awesome. We try to keep the guys happy.
All right. I move that the select board vote pursuant to Town Code Chapter 181 to schedule a public hearing for Tuesday, February 22nd, 2022 at 7 p.m. on the fee structure and regulations for use of the Town of Littleton Transfer Station effective July 1st, 2022, and further to invite input from the general public, the Board of Health, and Highway Department.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Nordhaus, seconded by Mr. Glavy. It's a roll call vote. Ms. Napoli?
Aye.
Mr. Knox?
Aye.
Mr. Nordhaus?
Aye.
Mr. Glavy?
Aye.
Just trying to change it up on them a little bit. And I'm in favor as well. So we'll see Ashley on the 22nd and enjoy your trip to Florida.
Thank you.
Thanks,
I
Chris.
expect a postcard.
You got it.
All right. So bring Sean in.
Yep. Mr. Chair, your request, this is obviously for those that didn't follow along with our marathon session on Saturday, that could get a little bit of a brief overview at what exactly happened on Saturday during the budget meeting.
Correct.
Hey guys.
Hey, Sean. Thanks for joining us.
Oh yeah, thanks for being flexible. It's been kind of a crazy day here, so. So just to provide a high-level overview of what we went over for the budget on Saturday, I think it was a great meeting between the select board, the finance committee, cemetery commission, and school committee. And I think one of the key takeaways I think we had from it was the balance between addressing current needs and then also keeping in mind our long-term liabilities and doing so sustainably. So with that, on the operating budget side, I know we still have some work to do to pare down some of the requests. I think we'll be able to do so in not too long a time, probably early March. And on the capital side, we had around $2.5 million worth of capital requests for the FY23, and with a target of a little around like 1.1 million. And we were really able to kind of pare down those requests and address those replacement costs versus some of the new things. I think of note, the biggest ticket item was the communications system, which is critical for public safety. So really important that we're really taking that on and getting ahead of that. So I think while there's still some work to be done, we should be in a good spot, close to balance as we move forward and look ahead to kind of wrapping this thing up probably by early March or so.
Actually, Sean, let me stop you there if we could. I don't know, were you done? You did lean back.
Yeah.
You want to make some comments?
Yeah, so Sean, some late breaking and for the board, and Gary Wilson is aware of this. I spoke with him late this afternoon. Superintendent Clenchey and I met. We have, as you know, that they this board approved the submitting to the Mass School Building Authority for looking at the Shaker Lane feasibility. So in the past, we were denied. So we're a step a little closer this year because we made it on the list for at least for the School Building Authority to consider our project. So in the event that that is approved, then we need to have the funding available rather quickly. What they did realize, and I think...
Before you, I don't want to bury the lead here, but on Saturday, we had approved to put some money aside so that we'd be prepared to pay for that when it came up, and the money that we put aside was $450,000?
$150,000, correct.
Okay. Now it's,
Thank you, Jack. So, lo and behold, everything we're finding out is much more money than even we thought, and they need an additional $250,000 to do that study. So when Sean mentions more work to do, and there'll be more discussions on that in March, that is something that was just thrown upon us late that needs to be on our radar screen. Sean, if you can just add it to the boards, both boards' list, and then that's something that you'll have to take up and discuss again with the Finance Committee. Again, this is just late news this afternoon.
so that's an additional $250,000. We found out literally just a week ago, the communication system for the police department, which supports the fire department, for dispatch.
The LWD.
LELWD, right, so it crashed, and it's an old system, and we've been kind of limping along for quite some time. It was on our projected costs for 2024, fiscal year 2024, so next year's budget conversation. Unfortunately, we can't put it off again. So we had anticipated about a $425,000 hit to the budget next year for that. But we're looking at somewhere between $600,000 and $700,000 for that. So we're going into this budget thinking we were doing great, and we had some capital with those additional $1 million in requests. And as Sean mentioned, we had over $2 million in capital requests. And these surprises, just like if we're doing our budget at home, folks, the transmission goes on the vehicle, or whatever it happens to be, the boiler goes in your furnace, whatever it is. There's always surprises, and we do have a pretty good fiscal policies, and we're pretty conservative, and we do a nice job with, kind of putting money aside and preparing for these types of surprises. But it is going to create more work for Sean and for us and the Finance Committee to sharpen our pencils again, which we did all day Saturday to try to determine, which of the $2.5 million capital requests, do we fund this year, and which could we hold off on for future purchases. So it's an additional $1 million that we weren't really planning on. So even if any of the department heads heard on Saturday that things were looking good for this, that, or the other, that may change. So any board members have any comments, or I didn't see Sean throw up, so that's good.
Yeah, I wasn't banking on another 250, but we'll make it work.
And just, Sean and the team did a fantastic job on Saturday, and I always like that joint session. You get a chance to see, not always at the same time, but in succession, police, fire, highway, schools. As Sean mentioned, schools and cemetery, and in one 6-hour stretch, you get a nice kaleidoscope of the whole town collectively, and it's impressive how many different people contribute to making the whole thing work. As far as the updates that Anthony just mentioned, hey, that's the bumps in the road we got to deal with. I just would ask that we get any updates on that and shared with us as they come in.
Yeah, they're actually going to forward the email tomorrow, Paul, so as soon as I get that, I'll send that to both committees.
Thank you.
Good deal. Matthew or Joe?
Mr. Chair, I don't know if this is the time to do it, but something I'd like the board to reconsider is, and after hearing what the increases, I'm afraid to say this, maybe the utility truck for the fire department, I'd like that to be reconsidered as something that's needed by that department. It's useful in plowing snow. It's the only vehicle that they can use to tow with. It's a 3/4 ton, and I know that they're in such need of it that they would actually maybe not put the aluminum body on it, just go with a regular pickup truck. It's something that they need, so I'm hoping it's something that we can reconsider.
Thanks, Joe. I don't think it's an inappropriate time. I don't think we're going to go into item by item and discuss the merits of.
No, I just wanted to bring it up.
I appreciate it. Yeah,
Mr. Chair, it's probably worth noting that the way we left things on Saturday, we didn't make a final decision on anything. We had, we clearly identified where we were likely to go, but I think we agree that we're gonna meet again with the Finance Committee after some of these updates come through in early March and settle things then?
We did, Paul, and that's specific to that one ask from the fire department. That was a $70,000 ask for that F-350, and there was a previous ask for an F-350, or actually subsequent ask for an F-350 from the highway department. That was a $46,000 ask. So I've asked the chief if he and I can discuss it and just try to figure out, why a $25,000 difference in a similar truck. So those are the kinds of debates and questions and the information that we try to deliberate and get to the bottom of. But Joe, I do appreciate that plea, and I think we'll all take everything into consideration, and all considerations are going to be further deliberated now that we have this new information about the additional $250,000 from the schools. So, but I personally do plan on sitting down with Chief Clancy just to find out more information about the truck, and because at first blush, I am not in support of purchasing a $70,000 pickup truck to plow the fire department, but he made some good arguments, and Joe, you've made some good arguments, so that's what I want to do. I want to further educate myself and find out where we should be spending our money.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You bet. Cindy, do you have any questions or comments?
I don't.
Okay. Sean, do you have anything to add, or just looking for a high-level briefing so that the public, we're in a whole lot of people tuning in on Saturday at 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. I know, Mr. Malone.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, really productive session. I was happy with, kind of the idea sharing. I think a lot of good ideas came out of that, and I liked how we were all working together and came up with a good first draft of a plan until tonight. But honestly, all stuff we can work through, and I'm confident we can put a good plan together that addresses current needs and doesn't overextend.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks.
Appreciate you joining us tonight.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Sean.
At this time, I'd like to move on to the appointments, because we do have some folks in the room. We got some folks online. If the board will allow me, I'd like to just jump right over to item number 5 right now and come back to public input and member
I
updates.
think it's a good idea.
Okay. Any objection from the board? Hearing none, I'll do just that. And Anthony, you want to take the lead on this?
Sure. As a result of the last town meeting, when the Personnel Committee was abolished in favor of a more comprehensive employee handbook, it was decided to have a Personnel Advisory Committee. That committee would consist of 3 members at staggered times. So tonight, the board has, I believe, 7 applicants to consider for those 3 members. One would be expiring at June of 22, June of 23, and June of 24. So when you make the appointments, maybe there's somebody that might want the 1, the 2, or the 3. Your appointment. Good.
Okay. We do have 7, we had 7 folks that submitted applications for this. The format will be, we'll just, for those of you that are in the room that are an applicant, we'll call you forward and just come to the microphone, state your name, and maybe some questions from the board members relative to your desire to be on the board, on the commission, or committee, excuse me. Before we do move forward, I did get a letter literally just before I got here, which is why I was running in late, from Mr. Wilson. who is our chairman of our finance committee. He's also on the COA, and he was a member of the personnel board up until it was abolished, and he thought that it would be, he would add value because of his professional, he is an HR professional and has been for over 20 years. But he sent me a letter and he just said, Chairman DeCoste and select board members, after considering my decision to run for a select board this year and reviewing the outstanding pool of candidates for this committee, I would like to withdraw my name from consideration for the three-person personnel advisory committee. As always, I will continue to support Ms. Vibert as she navigates the challenges of a new HR department by volunteering my time and/or utilizing the Veterans Tax Work-Off Program to help the HR department as needed. I would like to thank all of the candidates I have worked with in the past, as well as the new candidates that are willing to volunteer their time to make Littleton a better place. I would suggest the select board strongly consider at least one candidate with experience in classification, compensation/benefits, and municipal government to meet some of the immediate challenges being addressed for the HR department. Sincerely, Gary Wilson. So Mr. Wilson has withdrawn his name, so the other select board members are aware. And I think we'll just go in alphabetical order as they showed up in the packet.
That's the way that it's on the agenda, so it's by alphabetical.
All right, so first up, we'll have Mr. Kevin Brogan. If you'd come to the microphone, Mr. Brogan, that'd be great. Hello, just state your name, your address, and then we start to hammer you.
Kevin Brogan, 48 Grimes Lane. And what was the last item?
Why, I guess I'll just start off by saying, first of all, thank you for applying to be a member of this new committee. And if you could just tell the board a little bit about yourself, and then maybe, what why you would like to be on the Personnel Advisory Committee.
Great. I've worked in the field of human resources for, I hate to admit it, 40-plus years now. I have a bachelor's degree in personnel and industrial relations, a MBA. I currently am employed as People Development Director at a company called Thrive SPC, a multi-state pediatric home care company, and based out of Wakefield. And we have operations in many states throughout the United States. Before moving to the town of Littleton, I lived in Groton, served on the Personnel Committee and the Sustainability Committee in the town of Groton. And as to my interest, I've always had done something in the space of community involvement, whether it was coaching soccer or serving on a not-for-profit board or serving on the committees in the town of Groton. And since moving to Littleton 4 or 5 years ago, I haven't had anything in that space. I was doing Eucharistic ministry at the Life Care Center before COVID, but that came to a quick end. So just when I saw this, I thought it would be an appropriate opportunity for to use my background in a way that might be beneficial to the town.
Excellent, thank you. I'm just going to open it up to the board, see if anybody has any questions of Mr. Brogan. Any questions from the board? Paul, no?
I was going to ask if there was a substantial benefits experience given the comment you made earlier.
Yes, I've had a good deal of experience in benefits administration in various settings. Used to work for a large long-term care organization as the VP of HR, and in that responsibility, I was responsible for all aspects of HR, including benefits, contract negotiation, compensation, work with the union, labor agreement administration, etc.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. By the
And
way,
thank you for applying and volunteering your service. I appreciate it.
you're welcome, my pleasure. My last name has an N on the end of it, not an M. Do you have it down as Brogam?
I have it
I have it as an N.
with an N.
I got it. What I printed out has an M on the end
Oh,
of it.
Okay.
okay.
Typo.
Somebody fixed it.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Before you go anywhere, just, Mr. Knox, do you have any questions, comments? Mr. Glavy, you're good?
I'm fine, thank
Okay.
you.
Ms. Napoli?
No questions or comments, just thank you for volunteering your time in Littleton. Certainly appreciate the time that you spent in Groton, and it's nice to see that since you've moved to Littleton, that you want to do, you found, a good, what might be a good fit for you based on your experience.
Right.
So I appreciate you taking this opportunity to come forward and
You're welcome.
submit for this position. Thank you.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so next up, actually, before I call up Ms. Brown, in our packet, it does give a pretty good overview of what this committee is, so if the board's okay with it, or actually, Mr. Clerk, I don't know if you want to read just the town code that was in our packet, which gives a little summary of the Personnel Advisory Committee, just so folks at home know what it is that we're appointing.
Yeah, I can do that.
Great.
This new committee was created with the approval of Article 9 at the October 25th, 2021 special town meeting, and is advisory to the Human Resources Department and Select Board on matters of personnel policies and practices which affect the employees under the compensation and classification plan of the town of Littleton. The Personnel Advisory Committee shall consist of 3 citizens with preference to residents who have human resources or municipal experience with overlapping terms, at least 1 member expiring each year.
Thank you, Matthew. All right, next we have Linda Brown. So I'll just ask that you would come forward, please.
Good evening, everybody. Linda Brown, 75 Gristmill Road. I am currently employed as the Human Resources Manager for Lansing Building Products. I have over 25 years' experience in all facets of human resources, particularly the full employee life cycle from recruitment, comp and bens, employee relations, complex investigations, training and development, onboarding, et cetera, et cetera. The reason why I opted to put my name into the hat for this committee is because, one, I love this town. I have my family and I have been residents of Littleton for 15 years. I have 2 children who are recent graduates of Littleton High School, and the town has always been very good to us. And from talking with residents in the town, my understanding is that we have a newly appointed Human Resources Director that's really been charged with building the function from the ground up, if that's accurate. And I know exactly what that undertaking is. I have been responsible for the day-to-day operations of the Human Resources Department for the past 15 years. And I also know that a lot is done in the field of human resources through collaboration and working with other people. There is no one-size-fits-all, and you really need to take a unique approach to every situation that comes up. So I feel as though my background and my experience, having worked for an organization, I'll back up a little bit. We have 112 locations in 35 states, and I am responsible for the Northeast. And I oversee my unit. We have about 500 employees, and again, it's the building products industry, so I'm quite familiar with all of the diversity and the facets that come across that. So, I really think that I could be a valuable resource to Michelle in all things HR related, as well as giving back to such a great town. In terms of other committees that I have been involved in. I am currently a member of Blessed Trinity Parish, St. Anne's, St. Catherine's, and I am on the Faith Formation Advisory Board, particularly with the confirmation program, so I do a lot of work with those people as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Linda. Any questions?
No, just again, thank you, Linda, for coming forward and using your background and experience to apply for this committee. We definitely appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Don't go anywhere yet. We gotta look to the screen. It's like Oz, the man behind the curtain. Gentlemen, any questions, comments for Ms. Brown?
I just would like to thank her for using her powers for good.
Well played.
You have no idea, Matthew. Oh, yeah, just again, with everybody that's put their name in, thank you very much for putting yourself out there and for volunteering your time, and especially this role where we are looking for somebody. I think Mr. Wilson said it pretty well, looking for somebody with some professional HR experience and comp and class and benefits and things that will truly be an asset and a resource for our new HR director. So thank you all for coming forward. Thanks, Linda. Appreciate it. And if you guys have any questions of us, by all means, feel free to ask. Thank you. All right, so next up, we have Sanjay Gowda. Is Sanjay available?
Yes, just entering into the Zoom.
Thanks, Joe.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Again, if you could just state your name, your address, and a little bit about yourself, and what drew you to this position.
Absolutely. My name is Sanjay Gowda. I live in 8 Macintosh Lane. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there in person. I'm so sorry about that. I've been living in Littleton for about 6-7 years now, and used to be in Chelmsford for more than 10-15 years there. I work in the technology space. Currently, I've been with Verizon for a number of years, totally about 20-25 years of experience in the technology space. I don't necessarily come from the HR background, but I've been leading teams and recruiting and various aspects of managing all of that. But I would love to get involved and give it in any way I can, participate and volunteer and give back to the town, which we love. I have 2 girls which go to the school here. They are in 4th and 7th grade. We love the town, so wanted to be part of and somehow give back to the community and volunteer.
Great. Thanks, Sanjay. Any questions?
No.
Same. Okay. Mr. Glavy?
Yeah, just wanted to acknowledge and believe both Matthew and I met Sanjay at the India Independence Day celebration last summer, and he left a key part of his resume off of his. He humbly left off, I believe, the president of the India Association of Massachusetts. Is that correct?
Great Boston.
Correct. I've been the president of the.
How many members does that represent statewide?
We have about, in the Indian community is about 150,000 in the Greater Boston area, and when we celebrate an event in Boston, usually about 15 to 20,000 people. And I've been the president of that organization for a number of years, and I've been part of that for almost 10-15 years. But thank you for stopping by and be part of and allowing us to celebrate actually in the town for the last 2 years. Because of the COVID, instead of doing a large-scale event, we thought that we could do it in the towns that where we live and celebrate among ourselves. And thank you for making that happen. Truly appreciate that.
Matthew or Joe? You good? Yeah, again, Sanjay, thank you for coming forward, and just hang in there. We have a few more folks to speak with, and then we'll have some conversations and make some appointments.
Thank you.
Thanks
very
again,
much.
appreciate you coming forward. Okay, so next up we have Miss Anita Harding.
Hello.
Hi, Anita.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you.
I just wanted to throw my hat in on the municipal side by saying that I've worked for the town for 35 years, and I have volunteered in some way since 1978. I've been on Park and Rec and Conservation, been chair of both of those boards. Helped write the personnel bylaw, helped edit the new one that was put in place in October. I helped write the sick leave policy that is in place now. I've done job ratings, and I am now currently the vice chair of the COA board, and I'm on the TRED committee. I think I have a lot of information to give and work with the HR department. I've been through 3 compensation classification studies while I was on the personnel board, and I've seen both sides, the town side as well as the employee side of municipal government. And I'm also retired now, so I do have extra time. So I would like to be considered as one of the members of the committee.
Thanks, Anita. Cindy?
You're welcome.
Any questions?
I do not. Thank you, Anita.
Members from home, any questions or?
No questions.
Okay. Again, Anita, thank you very much for continuing to volunteer and putting yourself forward here. We appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity.
You bet. Okay. Next up, we have William Schmidt.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we got you, Bill.
Oh, good. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Bill Schmidt, Fort Kinloch in Littleton. I think my extensive 30-plus years of HR experience, including wage and salary administration, compensation, labor relations, and numerous municipalities exposures, including such towns as Newton, Worcester, Arlington, again in Littleton, and Watertown, Connecticut. I think these experiences, plus being an I hate to use the word ex, but past elected official in town and personnel board member through several terms, I know HR and how it works in municipalities, and I think my past experiences would be an asset to this committee.
Thank you, Bill.
Yeah.
Oh. Did you have something else to say, Bill?
No.
Okay. Thanks for your, again, stepping forward and for your volunteerism in the past. I'll open it up to the members. Any comments or questions for Mr. Schmidt?
I don't have any.
No? All right, hearing none.
Do we not have another candidate, Mr. Chairman?
We do have one more candidate.
Oh, I'm sorry, those questions were just from Mr. Schmidt, I guess.
Okay. Oh, I see what you're saying, yes. All right. Bill, thank you very much for stepping forward, and if you could just hang tight. We have Mr. Venuti is in the room, and if he could come forward, appreciate it.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Stephen Venuti, 164 Whitcomb Ave, former town treasurer for 12 years. Prior to that, was on the finance committee for 14 years, and couldn't help it, but I'm back on the finance committee.
Thank you.
Part of my duties as treasurer, HR, did report to me for those 14 years, or 12 years, I'm sorry, 12 years as treasurer. And I also served on the personnel board for around 8 years. I was the elected department head representative on the personnel board. I enjoyed my time there. I know how important that board was, and I like to see the work that we were doing continue.
Excellent.
Okay.
All right, hang on. Any questions from board members?
I don't have any. Thanks, Steve.
No? This is like the easiest
I know.
selection/interview process ever. Is there a Bruins game out tonight or something? Steve, again, thank you very much for all your volunteering and for coming forward and offering your services. All right, so what is the pleasure of the board? We've got some very qualified individuals and some folks that have stepped forward and open to hearing what the board has to say. I certainly think that, again, we've got some folks with some great skill sets that I think would serve the town well and be assets to this committee. And I hope that if there is somebody that isn't selected for this particular board or committee, and you've made this step to come forward and put yourself out there, that you would kind of keep an open mind and see if there are other committees or commissions or boards that you might be have something to contribute to as well. So open up to the board for discussion.
Mr. Chair, I have comments.
Great.
I I said this, I think, the last time we did appointments, it's very hard for me to not choose anybody. Given the sort of engagement in town, I always deeply appreciate people who are willing to volunteer to help. And so it's always a little painful to say no to somebody. But it strikes me that we have a chance here to create an advisory committee that's truly professional, like a board of directors of three people with many years of experience, including municipal experience, benefits experience, which really could, as in our drive to create a professional HR department, I think that that sort of advisory committee could be absolutely essential and very helpful to Michelle and anyone else we hire. And so I guess I'm speaking with Mr. Brogan, Ms. Brown, and Mr. Schmidt.
Thanks, Matthew.
Hi, man, Mr. Chair.
Please do. Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, I want to echo what was just said by my colleague completely. It's hard to say no to anybody, and just by chance, those would be the three people that I was looking at also. And once again, for a couple of reasons, it's good to get, in my mind, someone new to the system to get some new blood in, but to also keep someone who's been involved in that field of that town for that much time. So I would like to see Mr. Schmidt put on there. Thank you.
Mr. Cleary?
Yeah, I come from very similar places as you folks would know. I'm the board's most recent appointee to the former personnel committee and was part of the changes in the bylaw. I didn't do much of the actual written work. That was done by the Bill Layden, primarily others, but was part of that process. And I especially when we see the quality of the candidates come before us, look at this as a great opportunity to get some new faces involved in town government, especially those that meet exactly the criteria that was spoken to in Gary Wilson's letter and some of the other commentary made. I enjoyed serving with all of the folks that had been on the prior personnel committee. My concern about having too much of the membership of the former committee weighted on the new committee is what may be lost is the very distinct differences we put in place in the bylaw that was adopted by the town in October in the mission of the new committee, and hopefully that will happen regardless of the ultimate membership of it. That being said, I see a consensus building here. I could have very easily gone along with appointing Kevin Brogan and Linda Brown with their particular HR strengths and career paths, but I also think Mr. Gowda has an extensive management level experience and a broad range of experience that he can bring to the table too. I think he would fit in well here, but I can also hope that we can find a place for him to serve ably in another capacity. I see the logic in carrying over some continuity from the prior board, as long as the understanding is there that this is a new breed of cat, and it doesn't have the same functions or role of the other one, and we need to kind of make a break from that mentally. And these folks, the three of them that we select tonight, are there to advise Michelle and take on tasks as necessary and determined by the board and by the HR director. So I could go along with those three as well: Kevin Brogan, Linda Brown, and Bill Schmidt. Following the logic that both Bill and Matthew spoke to.
Ms. Napoli?
Okay, sure, thank you. Thank you again to everybody that came forward. Certainly appreciate you putting yourself forward and wanting to volunteer your time for the town. Certainly, everybody, my former fellow board members, all spoke very well. So that we redid the personnel bylaw. We abolished, I guess, the personnel committee, and we tried to modernize that department and move forward. Is a few practices, steps that the board took over the past year. Certainly, we came up with a structure for this committee that was very specific, and it said that we would give a preference to residences with HR and municipal experience, and certainly Mr. Brogan and Linda Brown meet that criteria, so they would certainly, in my mind, fit well for this committee. I know that a few other select board members mentioned Mr. Schmidt, and I do appreciate him coming forward as well and wanting to continue to be part of the Personnel Committee. My only apprehension is that he was involved with that group for so long. I really appreciate maybe a different perspective coming in, and certainly, in my mind, Steve Venuti, basically, based on his role as a former town treasurer, the HR did report to him for some number of years, and just his familiarity with the town, with our employees, with our structure, and the practices that we've had in place for many years, to me, it's added value to that committee. So I would be in favor of appointing Mr. Venuti to the committee along with Mr. Brogan and Linda Brown. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I can echo what everybody said, and thank you very much for everybody that's come forward and put themselves out there and volunteered to be on the committee, and for all of those who have given time to the community and given their time, whether it be on a different board or committee or in another community, what have you. I kind of echo what you were feeling, Cindy. I think with Mr. Brogan and Ms. Brown, absolutely, the assets and the tools and the skill sets that they bring to the table and their experience would be a great resource for our HR department. But the institutional knowledge that Mr. Venuti brings to the table, having, as he just mentioned, but being the treasurer of 12 years, HR falling under his purview, and very much a part of the transition of the HR department as a whole. I see tremendous value in having Steve and his institutional knowledge. It's 12 years, 14 years on FinCom, and the last year as well, 12 years as our treasurer, but even prior to becoming our treasurer, he had, I won't say it was very long, but he had a professional career in the banking industry and in management, as well as Paul had pointed out, some management experience from Mr. Goda. So I feel strongly in offering up Mr. Venuti, Mr. Brogan, and Ms. Brown as my three candidates. So it appears to me that Kevin Brogan and Linda Brown, there's a consensus among us that the two of those individuals seem to be kind of on everybody's short list, if you will, and there's some deliberation or some question as to who the third member might be, and I think we can maybe focus our attention and our thoughts on that. Any thoughts from?
It strikes me that Mr. Venuti is extremely involved already. I spent 6 hours at the police station with him on Saturday, not alone. But he is obviously, the institutional knowledge he has on FinCom is priceless, and I'm sure that he can contribute. I echo the sentiments of the other board members who felt like we should try to get some new perspectives. I would agree with Mr. Glady's suggestion that the third member could be Mr. Gowda.
Joe or Paul?
I'll just go back to.
Good, Joe, go ahead.
I still agree with myself, I guess. I already commented on it. I mean, I'm interested to see how it plays out, but yeah, Mr. Gowda, for just the reasons that I stated and Matthew kind of spoke to a moment ago, be my first preference. I'd be happy with anything above. Steve Venuti's an invaluable resource to us, but as Matthew just pointed out, he's a resource we already have access to, and I'm mostly interested at this juncture in getting some new perspectives in there. But as, Joe Knox had offered Bill Schmidt as a continuity factor with his background, both on our board and in a professional capacity with HR and a lot of different settings. I know him well. I could live with that too. Good luck coming up with, 3 votes for that 3rd seat.
Go
All
ahead,
right,
Cindy.
yeah, so I mean,
Good.
yeah. No, I was gonna say, do we just want to make a motion?
Yeah, we can certainly do that. I
Yeah.
think that,
Because then, I mean, do we want to get into preferences for terms? Because it's staggered, it's 1, 2, and or 3.
one of my biggest concerns is comp and class. We've got a comp and class study that we've kind of been kicking around for a long time, so I'd like to see some continuity there, and I think Steve is the best person to do that. I also think with classifying of jobs, we've got we just had before us a number of positions that would be before us, and I think that as far as the folks that would bring that to this committee are either Mr. Schmidt or Mr. Venuti. But I think Steve's got more experience when it comes to municipal, specific to Littleton. I appreciate all the time Bill gave to us, and if that's the way the board goes, I'm certain that Bill will get us there. But I just think that, kind of knowing where the bodies are buried and how to get things done,
Right.
Steve adds a lot of value
Right.
to this, to what it is we're looking for, and that's why I wanted the clerk to read the intention of the formation of the committee.
Right, and in that being said, Chuck, with respect to Mr. Gatto, certainly, he has a strong background in HR, but the one thing he does lack is, not HR, he has a strong background in management, thank you. But, we were very specific about preference for residences with HR or municipal experience, so in that mind, in my mind, we either have to go with Mr. Venuti or Mr. Schmidt. And I do agree with you that I think Steve is the 3rd candidate, is a stronger candidate for the board, just because of his background and experience.
Mr. Chair?
Please, Joe.
We're coming down to 2 people that we all know that are very qualified as far as I'm concerned. It's Steve. He's just a wonderful part of the town. He's done so much for it. The reason I had and still do probably favor Mr. Schmidt is that the time that I spent on the personnel committee after you got me on it, Mr. Chair, I learned so much about the personnel committee from that gentleman that I have a deep respect for everything he's done and his knowledge. So I would still tend to go in that direction.
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chair.
Sure. Understand that.
I would move that the select board vote to appoint Mr. Brogan to a 3-year term, Ms. Brown to a 2-year term, and Mr. Schmidt to a 1-year term.
Good, second that.
All right, motion's been made by Mr. Nordhaus.
Could we just clarify on the motion that the 1-year term actually expires June 30th of 2022? Because we're in that year now. So you'll be doing 22, 23, 24, just so we know what a year is.
You okay with that amendment, Matthew? Friendly amendment?
So noted, and they would come back to us for appointment again, is that correct?
Correct.
Out of the annual process, yes.
Yep. All right, so the motion's been made and friendly amendment by Mr. Nordhaus, seconded by Mr. Knox. It's a roll call vote. Mr. Glavy? I can read lips.
Oh, I'm sorry, it doesn't look like the mute's on my end. Can you hear me?
You can now.
Okay.
So that was an aye?
It's an aye.
Okay. Mr. Nordhaus?
Yes.
Mr. Knox?
Aye.
Ms. Napoli?
Aye.
Okay, so it's unanimous. All right, great. So those 3 individuals, Mr. Brogan, Ms. Brown, and Mr. Schmidt, I ask that you go to the town clerk's office and get sworn in. And she's got a whole big book that you have to read. I'm just kidding. But she'll give you some instructions on serving the town and being on a board or committee. And thank you all very much for coming forward and putting yourselves out there. Appreciate it, and
Here, here.
best of luck. Best of
Thank
luck.
you.
Thank you all. All right. So at this time, we do have a joint meeting scheduled with the Board of Health, but I'm been informed that the, Mike, hold on, we haven't posted, right?
This is not be a joint meeting, it's basically a discussion with you, to bring you up to date on where things are.
We had it as a joint meeting with the Board of Health. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'm sorry, what's the question?
So we're scheduled to have a joint meeting with the Board of Health. Unfortunately, the meeting wasn't posted by the Board of Health, so I think that
Could we attend a Board of Health meeting next week? I mean, I understand there's some time urgency on this decision. Would it be possible for us to attend the Board of Health meeting, the next one they have, so we don't have to wait 2 more weeks?
That's Wednesday.
It's Wednesday.
It's this Wednesday.
It's this Wednesday.
I can't hear Mr. Zeldin at all, so I don't know.
That's this Wednesday, Matt.
So we can't post in time?
We wouldn't be able to post in
Okay.
time.
I would rather that the Board of Health is able to deliberate on this, because I believe that they should have a say in the decision.
I don't even know what we're talking about. Which number is it on the agenda?
6.
I believe we're discussing the role of the hire for the health department, sanitarian or health agent. Is that an accurate
Discuss
summary?
public health needs of.
That was in the letter, in the packet, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, so we can't really have a discussion about it because they're not posted.
Correct.
I mean, I'd rather have it be in kind of an inclusive conversation with the Board of Health and this select board as
Right.
opposed to Mike just
Giving us a summary or. yeah.
giving us a summary because we can't deliberate or.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
echo what Matthew said, I'm just as willing to go to their meeting as they come to us, it doesn't matter to me as long as it works out schedule-wise.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Right. So we can't go
And
this.
as long as we're all both posted properly.
Or we can try to coordinate a special meeting for both boards.
Fine.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's feasible either, but it's another option.
Okay.
All right, so that's the pleasure of the board, to figure out another time to meet jointly. Okay. Okay,
Whether that be our next meeting, their next meeting, or
or a special meeting, off schedule?
a fabricated meeting.
Okay. All right, thank
All
you.
right.
So we'll try to put something together?
I mean, we do know how the Board of Health voted and voiced.
We'd like to have a discussion, Mike.
No, I'm with you. I was going to use this after I heard late in the day about what was going on, bring you up to date, so making our subsequent meeting in context. That's all. I didn't expect a vote, I didn't expect basically questions and answers brief.
Is that something you can send to us?
I'm sorry?
Is that something you can send to us?
Can be done later, sure.
Okay, great. Thanks. All right, so next up we have 7A, which is discuss RFPs for 12 Robinson Road. I think we've kicked this one a couple of times, just in the interest of time.
Right.
Mr. Chair, are we gonna do public input?
We will, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
This is something that you pushed off 2 meetings.
Yeah, so, Matt, we'll probably get to that after we get to a couple of the items that we just keep pushing week after, or meeting after meeting. All right, folks, let's see.
By the way, I just had to get up and walk around.
Are we at the RFP?
Elevate the RFP for 12 Robinson Road, item 7A.
Yeah. Do we have the last draft of it, or last?
That was distributed in a separate email when
Okay.
it first was
On the
come up,
agenda.
because one of the things the board had wanted when town council was directed to start to prepare a draft, you wanted to take a look at that before scheduling the meeting. So I had sent it in a separate email.
You did, okay, great.
So one of the discussions we had over the past few years, since we've owned 12 Robinson Road. Initially, our intent was to purchase this, to put a historic restriction on it, a deed restriction on it, and then just turn around and put it out to RFP and let somebody purchase it, and they would purchase it with the deed restriction on it. No intent of changing the zoning or creating, any other use. In conversations with a number of folks and with different developments that have happened in the common area, there has been some discussion about the possibility of doing something at 12 Robinson Road, whether it be for affordable housing, veteran housing, some sort of a cultural use, theater or other art gallery type of thing. So there's been a lot of discussions, and a lot of them have been kind of sidebar discussions. So let me just make this request if I can, for Anthony and Joe. If we have something like this where it comes up at subsequent meetings, if we could still have that attached to the packet, because I don't have, I only have the packet that was sent to me by Dawn. I don't have, so whatever support materials are in there, or I've got nothing other than a control sheet for this item and any other items that we bring up again. I noticed that with our goals, which is, I think, the next item on the agenda, those are in there, so I just ask that, if we do have this type of support material, that it just be in there for us. Just makes it a little easier on us to not have to go back a couple of meetings or look at a different email to try to pull up that kind of document.
We also do have town council on Zoom in case you wanted to ask her questions.
Excellent, thank you. So, how do we want to leave this
Do
discussion?
you want me to forward this to you? Because Joe sent it in a separate email.
No, it's all right. I think I can.
I mean, the bottom line is it needs to remain in a specific use, correct? Because of the way we acquired it? When we
No.
issue the RFP?
If we issue an RFP.
The purpose of it was sale, if you don't mind me, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, yeah.
It was just to have the historic deed restriction on it, so whatever use you want to go out in an RFP, it still has to have that historic deed.
Right, yeah, exactly. So I guess my point is, what is the language with respect to it being, to retain that historic deed restriction? Like, what is the parameters for that? When we
You mean
issue
as far
the
as the use,
RFP?
or?
Yeah, as far as the use goes.
I think we can do just about anything.
Is it just the building itself?
just the structure,
Yeah.
Just the structure, all right, great, thank
Right.
you. I'm like
Jenny
hung up
is-
on, I'm got like ag restriction in my brain
Yeah.
from the orchard.
Yeah, no kidding. What can we
okay.
use it for? Yeah, I get it.
All right, okay.
Jenny, if you have anything to add, just flip your mic on and jump right in.
Sure, I'm happy to, because it's been a while since you guys have discussed this.
Yes.
And, and all of this is, nothing's set in stone yet. This is based primarily on the last discussion I think you guys had on this about maybe a year ago. I worked with the Historical Commission on preparing a draft RFP and a draft historic preservation restriction that would go on this property. And at that time, what we heard from the board was the preference was to sell the property subject to a preservation restriction. So that's how the RFP is drafted. And, it's pretty simple. It's describing the property, and it describes the historically significant features of the property, and it's got boilerplate about when and where responses are due, but it emphasizes the type of reuse that somebody would use on the property. So that's how proposals would be evaluated on what they propose to do with the property. And what would happen is if you found somebody who wanted to purchase the property for something that you think is an acceptable use, you would then execute a deed subject to this deed restriction, and the town would then hold that restriction and be able to have some control over, if any material changes to the building, they'd have to preserve those features. So that's where we are now, but I think, I don't know how you want to proceed, as the owner of the property, taking a look at the restriction, if you have any questions about, in the restriction, there's permitted uses and there's prohibited uses, and then there's uses that maybe somebody could do if the town gave permission. So we could talk about those points. It sounds like there might be some discussion about how, some desired uses of the property that might be useful to put into the RFP if there's a certain direction the town now wants to head in.
So, yeah, if you could, is there any way we can bring up what the, that language that
Yeah.
Jenny's talking about, just so we're sharing it with folks at home as well as with us, so that we can discuss what those possible uses are. So obviously, it was a residential home. It's adjacent to some mixed use. It's adjacent to the overlay for, there's some commercial property. There's, yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Thanks, Ed. Form-based code. So the form-based code runs right through that end of Robinson Road. And if we could pull this up and just see what those allowable uses are. I kind of teed up some of them before. It was having to do with
What, I'm showing the glasses.
residential. Thanks, Joe. Next time, let me know, and I'll go like this, so it'll
Oh,
look like I'm
awesome,
doing it.
thanks, Joe. All right, so,
Mr. Chair, can I make a comment?
Please, Matthew.
I remember the last time we spoke about this, I think we were all racking our brains to come up with the perfect use. And we even had, as I recall, a couple of people who had put out feelers on it for a coffee shop or museum that didn't pan out. I think that this RFP is actually excellent. It's very clear about the goals that the town has. It also is very clear on how any applicant is going to be evaluated. I'm not sure that if we spend any time thinking about this, we're going to come up with any uses suddenly that we didn't think of before. And I don't know what's going to happen to the house, but I guess, do we have anything to lose by putting the RFP out there and seeing who responds? Because that's what I think we should do.
I agree.
yeah, I mean, the
Agree.
only thing I would take out, should we take out senior center?
Oh, if somebody wants to buy it and build a senior center on that property.
Yeah, I think we know that won't work for that
The
space.
center on Great Road?
All right.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, if it's broad enough, I mean,
Yeah, I think we could leave it in there, and
Yeah, that's
to
fine.
Jenny's point, if it comes before us, then we can put a deed restriction on
I just
it.
don't want
Or,
to waste
we could just change that to community center.
Yeah,
you know.
I would say I just don't want to waste somebody's time. We're not looking for a senior center at that location.
But even like community-wide events or programs, that kind of covers, we could take out senior center altogether, I think. And
Yeah.
community-wide events or programs at the end of that.
Yeah, I would just take out senior center.
I also have a clarification question. One is, did we use CPC funds to purchase this, and does that have any impact on the use? And the second is there an existing deed restriction, or is the deed restriction part of the RFP process?
So you did use CPC funds, which is why we're required to put it, we don't have a restriction yet, because we've been waiting to figure out how the town was going to use the property. So if the town was going to keep it and develop it on its own, it would need to convey that restriction out to someone. But if we're going to sell it, it's preferable that the historical commission get to keep that restriction and be the one who, has some say over, whether or not a proposed, project will impact any of the historically significant features of the structure.
And so is the restriction
is about
essentially
this
don't
much.
mess with the historically significant features?
You know what I mean?
in essence?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Let me just throw this out to the board to see if you're amenable. Where it says cultural center, I would put cultural/arts, just to broaden that a little bit. You okay with that?
Sure. I agree.
Yeah.
Fine with me.
Other than that, I think we're all okay with putting it out.
Yeah, yeah, we gotta get it out.
Get it on the street, and let's figure out a way to not put another roof on this building.
All right, good.
Okay,
You good with that, Jenny?
I'm fine. So I'll work with Joe on that?
Yes, please. Joe Knox, normally can.
Call you tomorrow morning, Joe.
Okay.
Jenny, thank you.
All right, good.
You're welcome, thank you guys.
Thank you, board.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Okay.
Okay, next up, we have goals. And with, let's see. What is our
I
intent
keep
here?
changing mine.
It's like a sliding scale.
It is, I'm like, we just gotta wrap this up.
All right. Do we want to go initiative by initiative, or how do you guys want to go through this?
Can I ask, what is the goal of this discussion? No pun intended.
I think we're just looking to tighten it up and just have, I also think this is something that we could, the next item on the agenda is the retreat, which I think is important for us to do mostly just from a communication standpoint, to make sure we're kind of all similarly focused and marching in the same direction. But
Right.
I think that in order to do that, we do have to have some goals established so that the direction that we're marching in has some meaning and some purpose and objective.
So in the past, Matthew, we kind of came up with commonalities across the board between all of us. Like last year, or maybe it was 2 years ago now, we came up with like the top 5 select board goals, just based upon using this organizational chart, just to try to prioritize. That's how we came up with the senior center, being a priority for the board.
Yeah.
Just going through this list, it just looks like definitely organization review of policies and bylaws is something that we've all agreed on. Communication is something that we've all put down as a goal, and conservation and agriculture, just as examples. So I don't see.
I support having this in the packet and on the agenda to the extent that one serves as a reminder. And more often that this is in front of us, the more often you get to review through the list. And I'm actually kind of pleased that we're at some level of achievement on a lot of these topics. And if we don't have anything particular new, if it doesn't spur a new initiative by having it on there, so be it. Next time it might. And in any event, even on some of the remaining items, Cindy just mentioned the organizational review. Well, we've got the upcoming discussion, the rules and regulations, making baby steps in a lot of different directions. The housing topic's very much tied into some of our economic development achievements and where that may end up. Who knows? But both of those are active. I think we should take some satisfaction that we're making progress in a lot of the big goals.
So that being said,
I don't think we need to have a goal for this topic to be on there right now. If we do, great. If we don't, we don't.
so that being said, and just going through and reviewing them, one of the ones that we do have on there is roadway improvement plan. I think I'm the only one that had it on there, but I think with the changes happening with Chris leaving and with our search currently underway to hire his replacement. When Chris is gone, I'm sure that he'll come back if and when we need him. But I think that where we do have him a couple of days a week, whether it's one of us, along with Anthony or Joe and Chris, just to capture some of that institutional knowledge and maybe pick his brain and say, what are if we had a blank checkbook, how do you feel about where we are right now? What do we need to do over the next 2, 3, 5, 10 years? You just pick his brain right now, because I think we've all we've all grown to trust Chris a great deal and trust his judgment, and I think that I'd like to find out what he feels is, kind of the big rocks in his department for us to get done, so that we can help whoever his replacement is when they come in. Plus, we can help to set our goals and to fund, if we want to do a half mile of sidewalk every year, we have to fund that, and we need to.
And that's the way I think he has it set up with the whole roadway improvement plan.
Very
right?
much so.
So just to make that sustainable, like, we don't want to lose that.
Correct.
When we lose him. So, yeah, I agree with you, like, sitting down and figuring out, well, how did he come up with that? What is that formula? What does it look like going forward?
Yeah.
And how do we just keep repeating that cycle?
Yeah.
And like you said, to make sure we have the funding for it.
Mhm.
Or make sure that, he's always good about finding grant opportunities too.
Yeah.
And make sure we don't lose that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So I just, in reviewing the packet earlier, I saw that and I just felt like, and then seeing him in here earlier, I just think it's something that we, almost like an exit interview, but we really should try to get as much of his institutional knowledge, I'll use it again, to make sure that we're putting ourselves in the best light moving forward, and preparing ourselves to move forward. So that was the only, I'll do whatever you guys want to do as far as the goals, this discussion tonight, but I just did want to at least touch on that and see if we did want to try to do something to make sure that we're capturing whatever it is that Chris thinks is important from his wish list or goals for the department and for the town.
I would also, these are old goals at this point. It's been, I think, 18 months since we wrote them. And it might be worthwhile to all write new ones or clean up the ones we have and resubmit them and look at a new matrix at a future meeting. Because I do think that a lot of, as Paul pointed out, a lot of stuff has shifted and we've accomplished a lot and we should move the goalposts.
Right.
That sounds like a great topic for our retreat, or at least one of the topics for the retreat.
Yep.
Other than that, I have no more. I don't think I have anything else on the goals tonight that I want to talk
I
about.
agree.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good. But it's good to see it again.
Keep it fresh, keep it in front of us, and
Right.
yeah, to Matthew's point, you just maybe sharpen the saw a little bit and see where we're at with some of them, and, some of them might fall off and some others might trickle on.
Right.
So next up is this kind of teed us right into the select board retreat, Paul. From a scheduling standpoint, is that something that we want to do, similar to what we did with the summit on Saturday? Is it something that we want to do on a light meeting evening where none of us have any subcommittee meetings or any other meetings that we need to attend? I think it is important for all of us to gather in person and to have, break bread and have some discussions, and certainly be important for us to have some sort of an agenda, whether it has to do with our goals or, what our top 5 are, maybe discuss communications. I know that I've rightly so, I've been criticized for some of my communication over the last year, and I'm open to owning that and trying to find out how I can be better at communicating with you all and with staff and whatnot. So,
Do we have what we discussed at the last retreat? Do we have the notes on that?
Something you did?
Joe?
I have notes from the one that was done a year ago at this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have all those.
Sent out an outline a while ago to the board, so I'm sure I can dig up that.
I think we could
email.
build off of that.
Okay.
Right? I mean, what does the board think?
Go ahead, Mr. Knox.
I think one of the points I wanted to make, whatever we choose to do, I think we should do it at a neutral site. And my personal point of view is that we should have a third party or a professional there that can organize it, so everyone can express their concerns about different things, but keep it in order.
Someone that's not necessarily engaged in the meeting and have, not a stakeholder, that they can they can moderate, essentially.
That's what I get, exactly. To
Keep us on
be
task.
moderator that would take charge and, organize some of our thoughts so we don't get carried away, maybe just one little subject.
Yeah.
I'd echo that, Mr. Chairman, and I would add this detail, is I would be interested in having a facilitator moderator who is not from a municipal background. I just think that the experience, my personal experience of when we did have that before, it just kind of lends into, it's just more the same little limited world we're in, whether it's a former select board person or a former or current administrator. I'd like to get, somebody who's from the, world of doing these retreats and facilitating meetings who is not
Municipal?
Municipal world, yeah. And we're gonna be doing it in a municipal building. I would like, even if it's not broadcast live, to have the record retained video, but I'm not opposed to having it outside the building, which limits that possibility, and I agree with that. As was pointed out, we have limited written record of our last two retreats, one from last summer and the one from last winter. And, the value of the retreat is greatly diminished if you don't have a strong record coming out of the meeting of what you talked about, what you agreed to.
Right. Well, the year that we had the facilitator, we had really, they set us up pretty well for that.
I thought so.
With specific questions. And I personally thought that was a well-run exercise, but I'll accept your suggestion, Paul, that it not be somebody with municipal experience, maybe just somebody different, so.
We might get, I just am hopeful, if we do it that way, maybe we get surprised with some approach to things that we're not, isn't just so routine to the whole, municipal dynamic. I would invite and appreciate a different take on things.
Okay. So how do we?
I would support that wholeheartedly. I think that some sort of facilitator will help us, will be objective, will help us stay on track, which we've had a problem with in the past. We have 10 items on the agenda, we go through 2. And I also, I think there's a lot to talk about, and I think a neutral area and a facilitator, and not having them have a municipal background is 100% fine with me. So yeah, let's please do that. And I would also say Saturday. I think that, again, there's a lot to talk about. If we are not limited by, 9 PM and we're all getting tired and ready to go home, then I would prefer that.
Yeah, I agree.
If I can, just for staff that's here for 5 days a week and nights, if we could stay away from a Saturday, there is time that we'd like to spend with our family, and I would respectfully ask the board consider to do it on a night when we're already away and we can extend our time here, if at all possible.
I have no problem with that as long as we start early, so we can vote to.
We start at like 3 or
time
4.
needed.
Yeah, like mid-afternoon at the latest, because.
Yeah, then I gotta take time off from work.
Right.
So, yeah, I'll take some time off from work to do it early, if it works for everybody else.
So what about like a 4 o'clock start time? Is that too early?
No, I'll still have to use paid time off, so that's fine. I'll make it work, whatever you guys want to do.
Is it 5:30 too late?
I think it's, honestly, by 5 o'clock, I'm exhausted. I've been, you guys are tired too. I don't think anybody's their best at night.
If we start at 5:30, we're gonna get 3 good hours in tops.
Right, so let's
And
just, so if it works well with everybody else's schedules, we'll just start late in the afternoon. I'll just take time off.
I think it would be most effective if we're able to do it on a weekend, Saturday, but if it's not gonna work for some of the staff, then one of these other options I can go along with. I just think that's
And it's gonna depend on the facilitator's schedule too, so.
Right.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, you guys okay with me just doing some reach out and then just pinging you all if I find some facilitators, just whether they have a website or whatever, just ping you guys with that and
Yeah,
take a look at it and give me some feedback directly, don't share with the whole group?
Sure. You'll go for someone that's not in the municipal space?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
All right, and then we'll
And we'll
look to
let's-
do like a
yeah,
3:30, 4 o'clock
yeah,
start.
let's try to do like a 3. Or whatever, whatever they can do.
Don't we have a Monday holiday coming up?
President's Day.
Yeah, we do 20-something. Well, we have the Tuesday meeting the next day. Right?
I was just thinking.
Which is fine, I mean, if,
Well, this,
I mean, what's the
What are you
difference
saying?
between doing that or taking a Saturday away from your family, now you're taking a Monday away?
well, they've already, normally during the
know.
week it's a little different, but
Yeah, I don't want to use my long weekend to, I'll just take time off from work, screw it.
I don't get President's Day off, so.
Oh, yeah. So,
All right, so the earliest we'll start will be 3 o'clock. If we find somebody that they only do Saturdays and that's someone that we all like, then we'll just have to have that conversation as to whether or not we
yeah,
do something.
see what they recommend or whatever, what they think.
Okay. Okay, good. I think that it'll help us all as leaders and just, like I said, I'm
Yeah, we need to just get it done and
Yeah.
scheduled.
All right, so I'm gonna try to get something over are there dates that, like Chris knew that he was gonna be away on the 22nd? Are there dates that we should avoid?
I'm planning on going away the end of March.
Okay, I don't think we're gonna be that far out, but I'd like to try to get something.
Oh, I hope we can do it
Sooner?
sooner. I'm just
Okay.
telling you, yeah.
I'll shoot for by mid-March. Is that all right?
Sounds good.
Okay. So we don't have a date, so there's no vote, but I've got some things that I gotta do and get back to you all.
Okay.
All right. Any hands? No?
No.
You guys okay, just continue to plow on, or? Okay. Next up, we have the discussion regarding the interim fire chief / fire chief. Is there any update other, I mean, I know you guys are meeting on Wednesday, Joe and Matthew. I think anything we were going to discuss, we put this on the agenda so that we could discuss it, but I think we ended up having the meeting on Saturday as well.
yeah, Michelle had sent us a text. You have it handy?
Yes.
Michelle had some information on the interim.
So she had.
So the update on the fire chief search, I would say, is that, the committee decided, like, on two of the three candidates that went to the assessment center. And so Michelle has already informed the third one that we won't be moving forward with him. So at this point, we have 2 candidates to bring to the board. And we're going to meet on Wednesday to discuss them and get a final input from Michelle.
So are 2 coming before the select board?
I don't think that's been determined yet because we haven't gotten all of the reports back.
So that was the charge of the committee, right? No fewer than 2?
Right.
So it's not that, the charge of the committee is not to determine whether or not the candidates that we got were frankly worthy. It was to bring 2 to 3 candidates to the select board for us to interview, and then we'd make the determination as the 5 of us, whether or not we thought we had a candidate that would like to offer the job to, correct?
Yeah, to expand on what Matthew was saying is that Michelle needed to get sign-offs from those individuals and then do some background checks as far as with previous employees and checking references and so forth. So I believe that that's what she's done and she's prepared to present to the committee. Is that correct, Matthew and Joe?
That's what I understood from her email,
Yeah, so I think depending on that outcome, if it's both are acceptable, then I would assume that committee would vote on forwarding those 2 names to the select board, and they become finalists and therefore became public, those names.
Okay. Any other discussion around the interim/fire chief.
The interim, was there some comment on the interim that
Oh,
you
yeah.
had, Anthony?
Oh, Joe, Joe was just gonna read a text, an update from Michelle.
So Michelle had texted Anthony and I and said that, and this was shortly before the meeting. Oh, and just on what you were just saying regarding the two, apparently Michelle is watching the meeting because she just said they are conducting background checks. Yes, correct.
Yes, okay.
So regarding the interim fire chief, she said MRI can place someone, and she gave the hourly rate. Two people are interested, and they can make more calls if needed. One of them can commute, and one would need some form of housing.
Or housing and so forth, so it's an out-of-state, so I think that they recognize really one, that if the board's interested, they recommended that you consider that sooner than later, because there's another offer on the table for that person next week, so if it's something that you want to have an opportunity to post and maybe meet or something, however the board wants to do it, I think they're saying is be quick.
Okay, and this has all been shared with interim chief Clancy?
As far as what Michelle just said, this was just before the meeting.
Yeah, this was.
And this was about just trying to get
Okay, I'd
someone
be very
in.
interested to see what his take is on it.
Why?
Why? Because he's the interim chief.
But he's asked to have someone come in.
Yeah, I know, and nobody would be able to better explain, what the needs are and how one of these people might best fill them than he, frankly. I don't know what's not obvious about that.
We need to get somebody in there, and if we need to get somebody in there, and we need to post, to be able to have an interview and see if this person is going to work, I think we need to act on that, and it's our responsibility to do that. He's already asked us to help him with that.
Right. Why wouldn't we want his input as soon as possible?
Yeah, we can certainly get his input on that, Paul, but we're here acting as a board tonight, and the only way that we can, if we can determine tonight, if we can post for Wednesday or Thursday to have a special meeting in order to interview this person and see if in fact they would be somebody that we would be interested in offering the interim position to. And at that point, we could certainly involve Tom, and like any other hiring, any selection, we would do background checks, and I'm sure that we would ask Tom and others that each of us individually may know that could,
This information that came in today, that can be disseminated to the board members, like ASAP, because I recognize maybe it just came in this afternoon, but it's something that we should all be looking at. This isn't something to be vetted through HR and then,
None of us have seen it, Paul. I haven't seen it.
And I'm saying we should, okay? That's all.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So Michelle is doing her best being home under the weather, so I'm sure that she could do an email, providing that she feels, again, this is like Joe said, this was just a text message that we got just before the meeting, so I'm sure she could write it up a little bit more in an email and forward it off to the board. And if it's a pleasure of the board, we're looking at Thursday, Friday, and not Wednesday, Thursday, because we missed unless we want to meet really, really late on Wednesday.
Right, I'm sorry, yeah.
So we'd be looking at a Thursday and Friday select board, and you can do a Zoom in the lunchtime or whatever is convenient for the board. I think the point is if you're interested in this person, you just have to act quick.
Right.
And Tom is available, that we are reaching out to get interim candidates. That discussion between Tom and Michelle has
He's had
happened.
that conversation with us.
Yep.
I know that, but now that we're hearing names, I mean, we're talking about scheduling a meeting to maybe make an appointment, that's fine, but if the names have come in today, then we should be getting them. It's more than just a formality for the board to meet and then to appoint somebody, and the sooner we get the information of who it is, I kind of like to know who it is, that's all, or who they are, who the candidates are. option, rather.
And we don't even have that.
Right, we don't have
This is
that.
coming from MRI, that they have two people that would be interested. They can, we can always follow up and get that information.
Yeah.
We'd have to post, we can always cancel a meeting.
Right.
If you find, you know what, this just isn't, let's
And
cancel.
we're working with the 14th of a deadline, too.
Yeah.
That's the date that was,
Yeah, well, it sounds like a lot of faith in MRI as picking somebody who's gonna have a very sensitive and integral position for the town, granted in an interim basis.
Didn't we just ask them for recommendations?
we just asked
is
them
what
the
they're giving us.
recommendations. There was,
Which is what they're giving us. We asked them to do something, and they're giving us
They're responding.
they're responding to that. We haven't looked at anything yet, so we need to.
You're right, we
Yeah.
haven't looked at anything yet, correct.
Right, so to expedite things, I don't see a problem in posting something, and if we cancel it, we cancel it, but to move things along, it should take a day to get us that information so we can all look at it.
yeah, I'm
right?
sure we can get that tomorrow if we post for Thursday night.
Perfect.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
we could post for Thursday night, you tell me a time and we
Right.
can work it out.
Well, how about in the morning, as you say, it could be a Zoom, we're eating up, not all the evenings are always that, convenient.
Can you do lunch, Cindy? That
Yeah, you
lunch
guys
time?
can just do it without me.
No, I'll do it in the morning before Cindy goes to work, but why not then?
I have to be to work at 8:30. It's got,
Oh.
yeah, just whatever you guys want to do. It's fine.
Lunchtime?
By the time I get here, it's just,
It would be
Well,
Zoom.
we're gonna be doing it by Zoom, right?
yeah, but I don't have Zoom, I can't do Zoom from work, I gotta sit in my car on my phone, so. Whatever you need to do to get it done, if I can be there, I can be there, if I can't, I can't, I trust you guys, so
Okay.
it's fine.
All right, so disseminate that information as soon as possible, as soon as you get it. Yeah. Thank you.
Could we just get a consensus on the times to post for Thursday? Is it evening?
Do we want to do that?
Well, we just I need to know a direction so I can when we reach back, Michelle reached back out to MRI and then we say, can you be available on X time? If Cindy's saying, if the rest of you are flexible, that's fine, but we just,
Is a morning meeting something? Joe, wait.
Joe, don't leave.
Don't leave yet, Joe. Is a morning meeting something that you and Matthew can do? No.
Which morning?
Thursday or Friday?
Not this Thursday.
What about Friday, Matthew?
Friday morning is open for me.
Okay, what about later in the day on Thursday sometime?
Yeah,
This is-
I can make it work.
That question goes to everybody. So at 1 o'clock, we do have the JLM, we have the Darren Klein meeting.
yeah, Thursday for, well, you don't need me, but Thursday I'm pretty booked up until late afternoon, almost after work time.
Paul, Joe, Thursday afternoon, is that something that you all can do, or?
First half of the afternoon, I got the DPW, review of resume meeting at 10, and I got a real work thing actually later on in the afternoon, but early afternoon, yeah.
Why don't we do this, Mr. Schiff, if you want, we'll reach out to see when the candidate can be there, and then we'll circulate sometimes, and we can do a doodle poll, or we can just figure out what works best and go from there.
Friday morning also works for me.
Maybe it is Friday morning, that could be a great time to do it as well, and gives the candidate a little bit more of an opportunity.
Do you want to pick a time right now? Let's pick a time Friday morning, just do that, because Thursday looks like it's...
Anytime from
jammed.
8:30 on, does that work? We can
What works
zoom it
for-
in before, or 8 o'clock, if there's a 7:30, I don't,
If you want to be part of
Why
it.
don't you come up with a window and then just see what the candidate's availability is?
Okay, and then we'll.
Friday morning between 8 and 10,
Oh, good.
Sure.
and we'll figure it out, and if they can do it at 9, we do it at 9. If they can do it at 7:30, we'll reach back out.
That's fine too.
Okay,
All right, between 7:30 and 10.
sure. So we'll find out, we'll talk to the candidate, we'll get the information out to you, we'll post, and we'll do all that, and we'll get something going. Sounds good for Friday. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
if it's okay with you, I'm gonna drop off the meeting, right?
fine.
Joe's hitting
Get some rest, Joe.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for hanging in there. All right, open the warrant. It's the closing date?
Yeah. Richard, do you have it in front of you? You want to just, yeah, today's the day to open the warrant. And then, we could set the closing date, and then what we really wanted to do is have an opportunity to see if the select board has any articles that they want us to work on, or research, or so forth, that might be a select board sponsored article. So we're just looking for ideas, if you guys have ideas, and you don't have to solidify anything tonight, but certainly if you have ideas, throw them at us, and we'll do the work on them.
Any bylaw changes that we've been discussing over the past couple of years?
Yeah,
or-
we've got bylaw changes. Can we put in if we put in a placeholder for it, we can just get it done. We have bylaws we need to abolish that are from like the 1920s that we've been
We
talking
can even
about.
use a blanket article like we had last year with the DPW, where it's one article covered changes in several bylaws, if that, if that's
Yeah,
what it takes.
because we have those, we just haven't done it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and keep in mind, obviously the Springtown meeting is really heavy financial, so, some of that stuff.
In all likelihood, we need to clean up the bylaws.
Yes.
So in all likelihood, that'll be in the call of the articles.
it'd be in the
and it
call
would
of
be-
the articles.
It would be,
It's
it's housekeeping.
absolutely, it's,
Housekeeping.
And we can do additional housekeeping in the fall.
it's
Yeah,
total
okay.
Because
house.
we're not gonna get it all done
Yeah.
now.
So we'll put a little placeholder for article cleanup and
Yeah.
see how far we can get going on what we can get. Okay.
Right. The other potential is the apple orchard. We might need funding for that.
Oh, funding, right.
We should put that on the agenda for the March, when you meet with the FinCom, right? Is that what you're saying?
No, so I was gonna talk about it during member updates. So we've got the RFP, and the new lease. Jenny's working on that. Joe and I met, and I updated Paul about it. Getting that ready to bring back to the select board, but, the house is gonna need we're gonna need some funding, I think, to do some work on the house.
The feasibility study money,
Um,
in order to determine what needs to be updated?
yeah. Yeah,
So that would be a capital request
okay.
that you'd want to add into.
Now, $1 million more expensive
Right.
capital requests.
I know.
Yeah.
And I just don't even know what that would
Could
cost.
even be a reserve fund transfer, right, depending upon the dollar amount?
Yeah, and depending upon when you're ready, sure, Paul, yep,
Yeah.
could be. And if you
Maybe
don't,
that's a better approach, because we just have I have no idea what that.
It's really too early to put it on the radar, Cindy, but we don't know anything about what the
Yeah.
scope of it might be yet.
It might be worthwhile to do something with capital stabilization too, just to, so that we have it there, just to,
Yeah,
but it's,
that's a better approach.
yeah, because I mean, if we just spent tens of thousands of dollars putting a roof on Robinson Road, and if any one of those structures needed a roof or a furnace, it's not gonna be
Just
a,
to start having that
Yeah.
conversation now.
it's gonna be a big bite.
So, yeah, so,
Yeah, it's definitely something we gotta put on the radar.
we do. All right,
so keep in mind that, like we said, the warrant opens tonight and it closes on Friday, March 18th at noon.
So, Mr. Clerk, if you want to, unless there's any questions about that?
No.
Mr. Clerk?
Neat.
Number 8?
Let me find the motion, just give me 1 second.
I'll bring it up for you if you want.
I got it here.
Okay.
Move that the select board vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 39, Section 10, and Town Code, Section 41-1, to open the warrants for the Monday, May 2nd, 2022 annual and special town meetings forthwith, and to close said warrants on Friday, March 18th, 2022 at noon. Said town meetings to be held in the Charles Forbes K Gymnasium, Littleton Middle School, 55 Russell Street, Littleton.
Second.
Motion been made by Mr. Nordhaus, seconded by Mr. Glavy. It's a roll call vote. Mr. Glavy?
Aye.
Mr. Nordhaus?
Aye.
Napoli?
I,
And I'm in favor as well. Thank you. All right, so we've got anybody that want to jump into public input? Okay.
I'm not gonna add anything
Simone? No hands raised. Member updates?
That's where I'm not gonna add anything.
I have a brief update on the TDR working group.
Great.
We met on the January 31st, elected officers, finalized our membership, and we're next meeting on February 17th. We're gonna set an agenda for our future progress. Everybody in the group is assembling lists of items that we need to discuss, and we already have a few. Yeah, that's it. And we have, and Mario has gotten MAPC involved as well. We're gonna meet with them on, I believe on Thursday. That's the only update I have.
Thank you. Paul, you said you're good?
I think I already did mine with the orchard.
The only thing I have is, One Stop is all set?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yep.
that's good. So the One Stop application has been submitted, so that'll afford us the opportunity to go to the state for any mass work. It's just one stop for applications.
Five or five?
Five projects.
So for 5 projects. The
Right.
key was to just get an intent in that we plan on submitting grant applications for 5. Had we not made that date, then we could have had till the end of March around there, and we would have been restricted to 2 projects. So we certainly wanted to take advantage of saying, yeah, include us in the
Breadth of
conversation
projects.
for the
Projects,
5, yeah.
And we were in touch with LELWD, and they did ask that we do submit their project for the expression of interest, the sewer project.
So we did, so we included them as well.
Were the 5 that you submitted the same as the list in the email that we got about?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Excellent. Okay, 9A, Town Administrator Update, discussing Select Board rules and regs.
Hit 9A, I'll do 9B.
Sure. Had sent around to the board a track change version of the regulations. Dawn had gone through, made all the changes reflecting the change to the select board. She and I also went through and made changes showing striking out sections that had to do with sections that were moved by town council into the employee handbook. So going back when we developed that employee handbook, town council was taking every and all regulation and policy, updating them, and then moving them to the employee handbook.
Okay.
Ultimately adopting that. Now as we come to the regulations, we need to pull those out. And in the track changes, I did insert some comments just to note that the language isn't exact because, again, town council was trying to do some improvements, bring it up to date as we shifted it to the employee handbook. It becomes a question as far as really how the board would like to proceed. Do we go sort of like the start off on a very high level, take care of the select board, changes, adopt that, and then we can whittle down each of these sections, or just looking for input so that we know how we can structure making those changes and bring sections at a time back in front of the board.
That's the best way to do it, one bite at a time, just,
Right, like have a motion to accept the track line changes,
Right.
then convert it to a clean version, give us a clean version, and then we'll go
Right.
forward from there, yeah. I think
Because as you probably saw looking through that, there's a lot of strike through just with those two sort of global
Right.
changes. And it would be nice to concentrate on the actual language.
Yeah. I think that's a good approach.
I'll say this, I asked for a hard copy, it's a lot easier on my eyes and easier to conceptualize, and Joe gave it to me today. I just haven't had a chance, obviously, to go through 254 pages of detail yet, but you can just flipping through it, see how much work has already been done by, what do you say, Dawn and council and Joe and Anthony. Think through that piece alone is going to be so much progress from where we were, and then to have that part done, in increment, and then be able to make it better reflect, topics that may not be in here, organized differently. We have all those options in front of us once we get over the hurdle of bringing it up to date, in the form that it is in, and I think that's terrific. The work that's already been done is very impressive.
Great.
You good? You don't need anything from us though, right?
No, so what I think what we'd end up doing is basically, we'll take the existing track changes, I can make a clean version
Yeah.
so that at least it's something to read through. I think some of those comments that I inserted, because there are things where town council took a portion, but didn't transfer another portion, and allows us to focus on those. If we can then get that into a consolidated version over the next couple meetings, that then I think gives us a good starting point to look at more content.
Okay.
Thanks for all the effort and time. Update on the senior center?
Yes, I'm going to share my screen and share the presentation that the architect did, just as, you know, there's a lot of chatter around town, and just, I think it's good to put out there where we stand right now. So the architect met with us, and we had some initial goals that we set forth. You know, the target gross square foot was 15,000. We had hoped for a construction cost of 7.7 million. That comes to about $513 per square foot. So with the 30% soft cost factor factored in, our goal was really to be $10 million, and this be something that we could fit in under the levy, which came to about $666 a square foot. To add on to our bad news for our capital issues, you know, goes right with it, right? So we got our initial estimate back. You know, first of all, we in designing this, when staff was working with the architect, we were just over 15,000. We were at 16,663. The estimated construction cost came in at 14,459,000. That's obviously much higher than we anticipated, and that's $867 a square foot. That's about $200 a square foot difference when the library was built. One of the things that I think we asked the architect was why. You know, they really couldn't answer, but I think we all can look to what everything else, right? You have supply chain management issues, and you have labor issues, and certainly that's in our opinion contributed to that cost of $867. We still would have to factor in the 30% soft cost factor, so the price per square foot is, you know, over $1,100 a square foot. You know, keep in mind that for those residents that are not aware what we have to do for construction, we have to pay prevailing wage. So, which means that we're paying really almost triple the cost of what maybe a private developer might do on a private parcel, but that's just the laws of Massachusetts, and that's what we have to work within. So with that, they did go through looking at it, and some of the items that maybe we could eliminate right off the bat, and they identified, you know, the ball field, right? So the ball field was not going to be the size that it currently was. Because of the need for a fire access road, we were looking at still maintaining the, you know, recognizing that that's used for the real small kids, T-ball, and maybe a clinic type. So we were going to focus on a diamond and a smaller infield, certainly not Little League size. But that field, when they were looking at that, because of the drainage that were required, that comes to $338,000 just for not a regulation size field. So that was identified as something that could potentially, the town could consider whether to reduce that cost. So that list to the left, it was $1.5 million of items that could be immediately considered. But certainly, I think that we left that meeting in realizing that we needed to go back to the drawing board a little bit, relook at what our wants versus our needs are, and maybe trying to get that price down to a more manageable dollar amount. So with that, with this unfortunate news, you know, that means that we're not going to be ready, which we had hoped, that I think the select board hoped for, is to have a construction article for the spring. That's not going to happen because we have some work to do with that. So we'd be looking at targeting a fall town meeting with construction, for construction cost. We may have to revisit the design because we had $1 million, and I'll talk to the architects and so forth and on that one. So if anything, maybe we have to tweak that design, but that still remains to be seen. So with that, so there's some other information that was shared to the board, and certainly we will update this new slide deck onto the project plan. But, you know, I think we're all still optimistic that we're gonna try to work towards what the select board's goal was creating a senior center. We just have some more work to do, and I don't think we're in panic mode yet, but certainly, these cost numbers that we're still really reviewing is much significantly higher than what we even thought. And even with the architect and the OPM who's worked on other projects, Vertex, and Brian has indicated that he's seeing that same trend with other projects too. So this isn't just something that's affecting us, it's affecting other communities as well.
Yep. It's, you mentioned it, it's one of our goals. Each one of us has this as a goal, and we're all gonna keep fighting to make this happen. And we've got a lot of people that are working hard to figure it out. So, hang in there.
Exactly,
Yeah.
hang in there and
Yeah.
keep the faith. We're working on it, we're all
Right.
collectively working on this, and,
Right,
you know, it's like anything else, it's another little speed bump in our
Right.
road to get that goal accomplished.
right.
We'll get there.
We'll get there.
Okay, thank you for that update. Any questions from board members?
No, unfortunate, occurrence, but I'm very confident in the team that we've got working on it, and, I don't think anybody is shaken in their determination to make this happen, as quick as possible, as smart as possible.
Yes, sir. All right, moving along, we got minutes approval for the January 24th Select Board meeting. Any edits or questions about the minutes?
All good.
Good deal. Ready for a motion?
I'll move the select board vote to approve the minutes of January 24th, 2022.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Nordhaus, seconded by Mr. Glavy. Roll call vote. Mr. Nordhaus?
Aye.
Mr. Glavy?
Aye.
Ms. Napoli?
Aye.
I'm in favor as well. Thank you very much. Our next meeting is the 22nd.
22nd, Tuesday.
Tuesday, the 22nd. It's the day after the holiday. We will be meeting on a Tuesday.
Or this Friday.
Oh, that's right.
Or potentially this Friday if that works, right, Friday morning. Our
Stay
next
tuned.
regularly scheduled programming is the 22nd. But that's it. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Well, I thought we should wait 5 more minutes until 9 o'clock, but, okay.
You know, actually, Matthew, I was thinking if that Board of Health meeting happened, then this time, man, this is just tough, predicting the time that will end.
Move that we adjourn.
Second.
Moved with Mr. Nordhaus, seconded by Mr. Glavy. Roll call vote. Mr. Nordhaus?
Aye.
Mr. Glavy?
Aye.
Ms. Napoli?
Aye.
I'm in favor as well. Thank you very much, folks. Appreciate
Good night, all. Good meeting.
Good work done tonight. Stay safe, folks.